uh, something just collapsed. Not a building, not a structure in the physical and visible world that anyone could point to and say, look at what fell. In the external and observable form of something that was standing and is now on the ground, something internal, in the specific and complete form of an interior that was held together by a specific and particular belief about the situation between them and you, Virgo, that the truth has just removed in the specific and sudden form of something that was the foundation of everything the SMIRK was built on, being revealed as what it actually was, rather than what the person smirking believed it was. Before the truth arrived and knocked the smirk off their face, in the specific and complete form of something that cannot be put back. Once it has been knocked off by the truth that removed it, the smirk is gone. And what is happening now in the interior of the person who was smirking is something I need you to hear before anything else. Because what is happening right now in that specific interior is significant and real and already producing consequences that are moving toward you in the specific and arriving form of what happens when the foundation of a smirk collapses because the truth removed it in the sudden and complete form that this reading is going to describe layer by layer for the specific Virgo it found, which is you. This reading has 4 layers. Stay for every single one because the 4th layer is the most important thing. This reading delivers for the specific Virgo who did nothing to produce what is happening right now and who needs to understand why nothing was exactly the right thing to have done. Virgo, my beautiful Virgo, the truth spoke, and it spoke loudly enough to be heard all night. Welcome, and stay with every word. The first layer, and this one is about the smirk and what it was built on before the truth knocked it off, in the specific and complete form of what the smirk was, the surface expression of in the interior of the person who was wearing it before the wearing became impossible, when the foundation it was built on was removed by the truth that this reading is going to name in the specific and direct form that it deserves from the reading that found the Virgo before the full significance of what happened has been completely understood. The smirk was built on a misreading in the specific and complete form of someone who had assessed the situation between them and the Virgo and arrived at a conclusion that was wrong in the specific and significant way of a conclusion whose wrongness was not apparent to the person who held it until the truth arrived to reveal it as the misreading it had always been, without the person who held it having known it was a misreading, before the truth revealed it as one. The conclusion was this, that they had the upper position in the situation between them and the Virgo, in the specific and leveraged form of someone who believed they held something that the Virgo needed or wanted or was dependent on, in the specific and dependency assuming form of a conclusion that placed the Virgo in the needing and dependent position, and the SMIRK holder in the having and leveraged position that the SMIRK was the surface expression of, in the confident and upper positioned form of someone who believed the assessment was accurate before the truth arrived to reveal that it was not. They believed you needed them more than they needed you. In the specific and power imbalance assuming form of a misreading so complete that it produced the SMIRK as the confident and visible expression of someone who believed they occupied the upper and leveraged position in the situation between them and the specific Virgo. This reading found who did not need them in the way the misreading assumed, and the truth that knocked the SMIRK off was the specific and arriving revelation of how wrong that assessment was, in the complete and sudden form of something that arrived and removed the foundation of the SMIRK in a single moment, rather than gradually in the slow revealing form of something that erodes over time before the foundation gives way, in the gradual and accumulated form of something that was always going to give way, but that did not give way gradually. It gave way suddenly, in the truth arriving form of something knocked off rather than worn away. The second layer, stay with me, because this layer is where I describe what happened after the SMIRK was knocked off, in the all-night form of what the 911 calls represent, in the specific and interior form of someone whose foundation has been removed and who is now in the specific experience of a person who believed one thing and has just been shown that they believed wrongly, in the complete and foundational form of a misreading that organized everything they believed about the situation and their position in it, and the Virgo's position in it, and what that positioning meant for the SMIRK that organized all of it before the truth knocked it off. Whew. The all-night experience is not about you. I want to say that first. And clearly, because the 911 quality of the all-night experience of someone in the specific crisis of a foundation removed suddenly by the truth can appear from the outside to be about the Virgo and what the Virgo did or said or did not do or say that produced the crisis. It is not about you. It is about them in the specific and interior form of someone who is in the crisis of discovering that the assessment they built everything on was wrong, in the complete and foundational form of a wrongness that reorganizes everything the assessment was organizing before the truth revealed its wrongness, in the SMIRK removing form of something that arrives suddenly and changed everything. The smirk was the surface expression of the all-night experience looks like this in the specific and interior form of someone in the crisis, of a foundation removed, replaying every interaction in the obsessive and searching form of someone looking for the moment where they misread in the going back through everything form of someone who is trying to find the specific and particular moment where the assessment went wrong. That produced the misreading. That produced the smirk that the truth knocked off in the crisis-producing form of the all-night experience that this reading is describing as the 911 all-night quality of someone in the specific interior experience of a foundational misreading revealed, reaching out in the specific and multiple form of someone who needs to talk to someone about what is happening in their interior in the crisis and all-night form of something that cannot wait until morning to be processed in the ordinary and rested form of someone who has had time to process the foundation removal before needing to talk about it, rather than the all night and needing to talk now form of someone in the acute and immediate crisis of the smirk removed and foundation gone experience that is happening right now in their interior and trying to reach you in the specific and arriving form of someone who is now oriented toward the Virgo they misread in the crisis and all-night form of someone who needs something from the specific person who did not need them in the way the misreading assumed, and whose not needing them is now the thing they are reaching toward. In the specific and crisis-produced urgency of someone who has had the foundation removed and who is now in the all-night experience of everything that was built on that foundation needing to be rebuilt from a new and accurate assessment of the actual situation rather than the misreading that the smirk was the surface expression of before the truth knocked it off within the next 48 hours. This reaching toward you produces contact in the specific and arriving form of someone who has been in the all-night experience and who is now moving from the all-night interior crisis into the reaching toward you form of someone who needs to say something to the specific Virgo whose truth knocked the smirk off in the complete and all-night producing form of what is happening right now and what is arriving within 48 hours. For the specific Virgo, this reading found within 48 hours. Something arrives from them in the all-night and foundation removed form of someone who is no longer smirking and who needs the Virgo to know that the smirk is gone and why in the specific and reaching form of what 48 hours contains. For the specific Virgo, this reading found the third layer. Stay with me, because this is the layer that most Virgos are not prepared for in the specific form of what it contains. For the Virgo who is reading this and who may be expecting the third layer to be about what to do with the reaching when it arrives within 48 hours in the all-night and foundation removed form of someone who needs something from the specific Virgo who did not need them in the way the misreading assumed. The third layer is not about what to do with the reaching when it arrives. That comes later. In the natural and considered form of someone who has time to respond with full and considered awareness of what they want to respond. When the reaching arrives within 48 hours, the third layer is about what the truth was that knocked the SMIRK off in the specific and naming form that the Virgo deserves before the reaching arrives within 48 hours, because knowing what the truth was is what allows the full understanding of why the SMIRK is gone and why the all-night experience happened and why the reaching is coming in the specific and arriving form of what 48 hours contains. The truth that knocked the SMIRK off is the truth of the Virgo's actual position in the situation becoming visible in the specific and undeniable form of something that can no longer be misread as the position the assessment had placed it in before the actual position became visible in the form that made the misreading undeniably wrong to the person who was holding it as the basis for the SMIRK that could no longer be maintained once the actual position was visible in the undeniable and SMIRK removing form of the truth that arrived and knocked the SMIRK off. The Virgo's actual position is stronger than the misreading assessed it as being in the specific and significant form of a position that was underestimated in the confidence-producing and SMIRK-sustaining form of an assessment that placed the Virgo below where they actually stand. In the real and visible and now undeniable form of the actual position that the truth just revealed to the person whose misreading has just been corrected by reality. In the SMIRK removing and all-night producing form of what happens when reality corrects a misreading that was confident enough to SMIRK. Watch for this today in the ordinary flow of the ordinary hours. Something from them in the beginning form of the reaching that this reading named as arriving within 48 hours, a message or an attempt at contact or a mutual person mentioning their name in the ordinary and starting form of a reaching that has begun but not yet fully arrived in the complete and 48-hour form that this reading is describing as what is coming for the specific Virgo it found. Watch for this tomorrow. The reaching becoming more visible in the specific and tangible form of something that has moved from the beginning form of today into the more concrete form of tomorrow in the 48-hour window that this reading named as the container for the arriving of what the all-night experience produced in the person who is no longer smirking and who is now reaching toward the specific Virgo whose truth knocked the smirk off in the complete and sudden form of something removed rather than worn away. And by the end of the 48 hours, the reaching completes itself in the full and arrived form of what the all-night experience was building toward as its natural and arriving consequence. For the specific Virgo, this reading found who did nothing to produce what is happening and who is now within 48 hours of the reaching completing itself in the visible and receiving form of what 48 hours contains. Now I want to speak to something that I know is present in the interior of many Virgos reading this, in the specific and honest form that deserves the direct address, rather than the skipping past into the positive and arriving. Some of you are tempted in the specific and understandable form of someone who has just been told that the person who was smirking is in crisis over them and who feels something complicated about that information in the specific and morally checking form of a Virgo who does not celebrate suffering, even in the people who were smirking before the truth knocked the smirk off and produced the all-night experience that this reading is describing. That moral checking is your integrity, and it is appropriate, and it is one of the specific and particular things that makes the Virgo the specific and extraordinary person they actually are, in the full and unreduced form that the misreading underestimated, and that the truth revealed as more than the assessment assumed. The crisis is not your responsibility, and the reaching within 48 hours does not require the Virgo to respond in any particular way in the specific and pressure-free form of someone who has been reached toward and who gets to decide with full and complete freedom how to receive the reaching when it arrives within 48 hours for the specific Virgo. This reading found the fourth layer, the most personal and the most important of everything this reading delivers for the specific Virgo it found who did nothing to produce the all-night crisis. And the smirk removal and the 48-hour reaching that is arriving. I feel a question forming in you right now as the fourth layer arrives in the specific and interior form of something that has been sitting in the Virgo since the first word of this reading named what is happening right now. For the person who was smirking and is now in the all-night crisis of a foundation removed by the truth, the question is not what to do. when the reaching arrives within 48 hours. Huh. The question is, did I know, in the specific and interior form of someone who is wondering whether they sensed the truth that knocked the SMIRK off before the truth arrived to knock it off in the visible and SMIRK removing form that this reading is describing as what just happened. Before the Virgo reading this had the full information that this reading is now delivering, as the 4 layers of what occurred, I want to answer that directly. Yes. You knew in the specific and particular form of a Virgo who always senses the actual position of things before the visible evidence confirms what the sensing was sensing as the actual position, rather than the assessed and misread position that the SMIRK was the expression of before the truth arrived to reveal the actual position. In the SMIRK removing and all-night producing form of a reality that does not cooperate with misreadings indefinitely, you knew the SMIRK was built on something wrong in the quiet and interior and unannounced form of a sensing that was accurate, but that the Virgo did not fully trust as the complete and correct reading of the actual situation before the truth arrived to confirm what the sensing already knew in the SMIRK removing form of a reality that corrects misreadings when they have been held long enough for the correction to arrive in the sudden and complete form that this one took. Your sensing was accurate. It was always accurate. And the truth that knocked the SMIRK off is the external confirmation of what your sensing already knew in the interior and unannounced form that the truth has now announced for everyone, including the person who is smirking and is now in the all-night experience of a misreading revealed by the truth that your sensing was always already holding before the external confirmation arrived to reveal it in the visible form that this reading is delivering to the specific Virgo it found within 48 hours of the SMIRK being knocked off by the truth that was always going to arrive. I want to give you something before this closes. In the permission form that the sensing was accurate, Virgo reading this specifically needs before the 48 hours and what they contain, permission to trust your sensing from this moment forward in the complete and full form of someone whose sensing has just been confirmed as accurate in the external and visible form of the truth arriving to knock the SMIRK off that the sensing already knew was built on something wrong before the knowing was externally confirmed in the all-night and 48-hour form of what this reading is describing as what is happening right now and arriving within 48 hours for the specific Virgo. This reading found, trust it, Virgo. Your sensing was right. It is always right. And the truth just proved it in the most visible and complete form available, whew, you are protected and vindicated, and within 48 hours of everything this reading described, arriving in the real and external form of the reaching from someone who is no longer smirking. Because the truth that you're sensing was always holding just knocked it off in the complete and all-night producing form of a reality that does not cooperate with misreadings indefinitely, no matter how confidently they smirk. Take gentle care of yourself. My beautiful Virgo, the smirk is gone, and the truth that removed it was yours all along. Drop a comment below and tell me if you felt this reading from the very first word, because if you did, your sensing is already telling you that everything this reading described is real and arriving within 48 hours. Subscribe, because the Virgo whose sensing is this accurate deserves more of what this reading just delivered. And there is more coming.